Warning: the information given during this podcast is from professionals discussing situations from our experience and sharing knowledge.
We are not treating or diagnosing what you are personally experiencing, and if you are having difficulties, please seek professional help.
Hello and welcome. This is
It's Not You.
It's Them.
I'm Lauren.
And I'm Rich.
This series is about checking in and looking at ways to explore what is going on around you.
And today's topic is triggers, red flags, and bad habits.
Yes.
So, the thing with these three is they're quite similar, and they can be the lines can be blurred, but we want to try and clear them lines up, I think, a little bit. We'll start off with triggers, and the best way to describe trigger is something that is anchored a trauma response, that something from your past.
Yes.
Is now something familiar of that experience is now happening in your present, and it's making you, and something's like tripped the alarm system, and all of a sudden you're responding how you responded back then in the present. And it could be a situation, it could be a friendship, it could be a relationship, it could be, romantic or not, is something that's familiar. And I think sometimes people let a trigger get in the way of what's going on for them and being happy.
Yes, I think people don't understand that the brain is responding from what it thinks is happening, not what is actually happening. And you might not even be aware that it's a trigger until the alarm system is flicked and wondering why you're being potentially overreacting or disproportionate response to what's necessary. And that can be quite scary if you don't know what's happening to you or why you're responding with venom over something that's not really that big of a deal. And it can be quite difficult as a partner on the receiving end of that to have absolutely no idea why this person is chucking plates and have lost their mind, and you're really kind of confused and lost as to what's happening. So yeah, it's important to know what your triggers are,
because that can manifest in all different places. Because I'm thinking, for me, back in like the workplace scenario, you could have a boss that reminds you of a relative, a parent, or whatever, and you're just because you're reminded of, and you're responding to them as if that, like, why does this person make me so angry? What is it that's getting on? I mean, let's be fair. There are going to be people who are a nightmare to work with. Full stop.
Yes.
So let's put that out there. There is a nightmare for people, but part of the thing of exploring what's going on could be looking at, does this person remind me? When have I felt a bit like this before? Who has reminded me of that?
And it's important to recognize that you are activated. The longer you shove it down and the more you try to soothe that part of your brain through whatever addiction, eating your feelings, binge watching stuff, drinking, whatever, you will continue to reinforce that trigger. So if you don't address it, it will continue to kind of lurk in the background until something trips the alarm again. So you need to listen. Your body's telling you something, you need to listen to it.
Because I mean, this is sharing as personal experience. I remember there was, like, when I was much younger, I'd lost both my parents, and I think there was something around, mixed in with everything else, something around fighting against authority figures. I don't know, part of it was about that. But I remember, like, this one manager, I was like, that's why I used the example, is like, I was like, why am I getting so agitated by this? And it was just like, you've been in a few different places, and it seems to be this power dynamic that you're battling against, and the common denominator is you. In everything, every situation that's going on is you. I mean, like, I've worked through that stuff now, but like, there's a difference between speaking your mind and come from a place of like, this is what I'm about and I know what I'm about, to be coming from a place where it's like cloudy. It's cloudy, and you don't know why it's coming from, whatever way it's coming. And I think that could be quite confusing and quite upsetting, Yeah,
because a lot of the time you can genuinely have no idea. If it's a subconscious response, you're not aware of why you're doing it, and you can sit and think about it, and you can try to, but if you've just lost your mind, essentially, and lost it at somebody you care about, you've also now have to deal with the fact that you hurt their feelings on top of whatever's going on for you. So that's why you need to understand what's happening so that you can better communicate what's going on and also do something about it. Just because you know what's going on doesn't mean you're allowed to let it continue to happen.
Yeah. Do you think not being aware of a trigger can block you from listening to what the other person's saying? Because it's always like you filled in the blank. Prejudgment is already there. You're doing this because you're trying to con me out of money. You're trying to lie to me. You're trying to cheat on me. And it's actually, that's already been predetermined. You haven't explored that with that person.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to what you said about being cloudy, is you're trying to pinpoint what's happening. And if there's already not a lot of clarity around understanding why you're doing something, you're looking for any answer to fit the bill.
Right.
So, and also we can only react from what we've learnt along the way, right? We can only react from the information we have at the time. So if you've just been through a really awful relationship, you're going to interpret every single relationship now as a threat until they prove otherwise, which is not the best way to come into a functioning, healthy adult relationship. Because you've already got the heavies in the back, the big security system ready to kick your head in if you step out of line. But it's not really that ultimate protective layer has become suffocating.
Becomes a problem because you're like, rather than being outgoing and being yourself, you're like more guarded, and you've got like, so how are you going to connect more because you're shutting yourself down? And
when someone comes to that and trying to say it says like, you're shutting down, it just creates more of that encompassing response, which is, well, I have to because I feel threatened. Do you know what I mean? So if someone says like, why do you always do that? Why are you acting like that? One response is you don't actually know you're doing it, right? That lack of awareness. 2 is you are aware and you don't know how to fix it. Or 3 is you are aware and you don't want to fix it because it gets you something, whether that be security, control, support, whatever you're looking for. So so triggers, you need to know what's going on.
Do you think that that stuff like that, where you are aware of what's going on and you let it kind of continue, do you think that starts moving into personality disorder territory?
Yes, I think
like that was
when something's
established.
When something's happened that's been so traumatic for you, it kind of fractures part of the self, and creates this like alternate version of you where you will no longer allow yourself to be victimized, threatened, abused, but then you stray dangerously into abuser territory. And when someone comes out in an abusive relationship, you have this anger that comes with it of finally you realize what was happening, you get really angry about it, and you almost take that anger into somewhere else of like almost daring somebody to cross you rather than address the fact that that anger's coming from pain, right? You need to go and heal and go and figure out what happened and why you were manipulated, abused, victimized, whatever. But some people can't move past that, and it develops into this I will never be a victim again kind of sociopathic, antisocial personality side of things. So if it's not checked and it's not addressed,
but there's differences between waking up being triggered to something, learning from a previous relationship or a previous mistake, and then wanting to apply it in a new relationship. Do you think this is where a few bad habits can come in?
I think relationships are hard regardless, right? Whether it's friendships, personal relationships, whatever. There's a lot of societal expectations about who you're supposed to be, the Instagram version of events, right, versus real life version of events. I think a lot of what is a functioning adult relationship supposed to look like gets lost in the need for an immediate relationship. Like if I've got out of one, I need to be with somebody else. So even if you picked up some bad habits from that last partner, just to keep the peace, or whether it was, you gave up certain values that you might not given up, but because you want to keep the person, you'll make allowances for them. You have to like reorganize your filing cabinet. Like once you've been with somebody that you kind of ended badly, or you've stayed too long, that kind of lost feelings along the way kind of thing. You really do need to reorganize your own self. What did you learn from that experience? What was helpful? What was not helpful? Did you agree with, with everything that they were talking about? If not, then you don't take that into someone else's life and make them sort it out.
Yeah.
That's, that's not that your new partner isn't free therapy. Like you need to go and figure it out.
Yeah. It's almost like you have to have like your own debrief about the relationship and let it kind of like, what do you call it? Like exercise it, get it, like
out these demons.
Out these demons. It is gone. Because if you don't, it pulls through into the next thing, isn't it? Like, oh, the last one was always cheap, so he would never get this and the other. So that's what because that's what builds into the triggers. That's what builds into like,
yes,
Because
like you say, and then like the last boyfriend I was with wouldn't let me have this, so now you don't get to tell me what I can and can't have. So that develops into that bad habit of that's not what this new person is doing potentially.
Yeah.
But you're putting that on them because you didn't deal with that last snag, right? It's catching on something on the way down. So yeah, that's how those bad habits develop. Or you really lack self-awareness. And like you said earlier, what's the common denominator?
Yes.
Is you. Like if you.
What is the common denominator?
What is the common problem in this? Oh shit, it's me, right? Like so.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to have these bad habits. You just need to make sure what's the intent and what's the purpose of them. And if someone who loves is pointing them out to you, you do have a responsibility to address them.
Yeah, even explore them. Take it on board and explore it and think, does this relate to anything else? What's going on here? Because they're saying it because it's getting in the way. And to get to the point where you want to say something, they've already they're getting close to the end of their rope. I would have said, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And if they've done it in a way that's gentle communication, right? They've tried to be respectful as they can, and they really love you and they really want to stay with you. If you're actively doing something that's hurting them and they're telling you that, you have a responsibility to address it.
Yeah. And to make a difference, make an allowance, or
figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out. Just figure out what is it about that situation that make you kind of go upside down, inside out. Because I think the important thing with triggers is you'll never get rid of it. I find you never get rid of a trigger. Which, when I was going to the counseling training, I was like, hold the phone. What? Like, if this is a thing that I'm always going to have, I don't understand. But the thing is, when you work on it, you kind of go through the cycle quicker. And it's like, I'm aware of it. I know what I'm doing. I know this is and then I can have choices. I can make choices. I know this person's going to irritate me because of this reason. Have I separated out? Is it actually this or is it actually this? And then you can make a decision. And I think that's the important bit. Triggers don't just disappear. They will always remain there, but it won't be as severe a cycle, Yeah,
and that's important. Like the trigger is always going to trip the alarm. But the response, right? The amount of security guards that show up, the amount of chaos that unfolds as a result, like you do get to decide once you understand them. Once you understand, oh, okay, I felt that. Like, okay, I got triggered. That was my fault. Like, I'm just gonna take a minute and reset myself. But yeah, you do have to do that work. Otherwise, the triggers take away all your choices, and you're responding from that fight response.
Because who wants to be in a situation with somebody who's like, they're telling you they're coming in with a sledgehammer for a nail. Do you know what I mean? Like they really no. Nobody wants to be in that sort of situation.
No, because brain can't function in dysfunction.
Yeah. That is the key bit. This is the key bit for the whole thing. It can't.
It develops those triggers and those bad habits as a way to survive. But it doesn't mean that you thrive and that you benefit from the relationships you're in, because you're purely on like automatic mode.
So moving into that article that you said that you found, do you want to take us into that bit?
Yes. So the bad habits that can happen within relationships, again, they're things that we've picked up over time that we might not be necessarily aware of. But are actively contributing to that kind of disruptive harmony kind of thing. Some people find a relationship and for some reason it didn't work out, timing, age, money, life, whatever. But there's something about that person that they just can't live without. And they end up in relationships with people and they continue to try and fit that person-shaped cookie cutter. So imagine, that person's kind of stamped a hole in your life, and they're trying to fit this new person into that cookie cutter shape. And it's not going to happen. It's just not. Like, wanting your partner to be the best version of themselves is one thing. Actively forcing them to improve, go to the gym. I don't want to be with somebody that's 180 pounds. What?
Yeah.
Dude, shut up. Like, things like that. Well, my last partner was 5'7", blonde and whatever. I need you to dye your hair and things like that. Like, it's not seeking to improve somebody.
Do you know what?
It's a journey that you get the privilege of walking with your partner with.
Yeah.
Right? You grow old with them. Life changes with them. You are witnessing their change. Yeah. And it's a privilege to be included in that journey. Yeah. Not, if you don't take this master's degree, I'm not going to be with you anymore.
Yeah, but like that's like a hostage situation. And I always,
well, it's an ultimatum. Yeah.
Circling back to that comment about like, well, my last partner did this, this, and this. I only dawned on me the other day. I'm like, however, it worked out so well the last time that you're still. Oh no, you're not. No, you're not. So none of us are an expert in this center because we're both single and we've come into this situation. So neither of us have got top trumps. Do you know what I mean? It's like.
But that's what it should come. Like, you shouldn't be holding this grocery list against your new partner because of what the last one did. Well, if the last one was so great, why are you not with him?
Right. Why wasn't it? What if you had it all clued up? Then surely you should be in it. No.
Well, that goes on to the next one, kind of avoiding contention. Like, you cannot avoid arguments. Yeah. Healthy arguments in a relationship where you are voicing your concerns, opinion, religion, any of those things with healthy, compassionate communication, rather than F-bombs, door slamming. Like, and you are going to do it. You're human, right? People get pissed off. It's okay. But if you just agree to everything to keep the peace, you're actually building resentment within yourself. Your needs aren't getting met. It's going to come out in other ways. So if you can voice your opinion, or they did something you don't like, it's important you tell them. But respectfully, and in an environment where they have an opportunity to respond, rather than cornering somebody and expecting them to not react. The two are very different. Letting go of things, forgiving people, right? If you keep holding on to things that they did, you cannot move forward, right? Like, yeah. And that's really an important habit. Like, well, you didn't do the dishes like I asked you to, and then they're still pissed 3 days later. It's disproportionate, right? Like, it doesn't make much sense. Like, what's more important, winning the argument or the relationship? Like, which one is it? Because if you're continuing to hold resentment and grudges, then the relationship becomes toxic, and there's no room to breathe, right? Because if somebody's mad the whole time,
how would you then rephrase it? What would be a healthy resolution to that?
You got triggered. If you can't let it go, something is triggered, right? Whether it's disrespect or whether it feels. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like as in terms of if that person said, like, oh, you didn't do the dishes, I asked you to do the dishes, you didn't do them, a healthy response from them would be, like, sorry, I was meant to do it, or...
Yeah, you're right, you did ask me to do it, and I had forgotten to do it, I had a really bad day, but I can do them now, or I can do them in the morning. Right. Except because if it was important to that person for whatever reason, maybe they have some previous issues where they didn't get done. It might be a respect thing. It's not really about the washing up. It's about, I think, completing the task or being asked to do something and doing it. So once you can communicate that, but if it was really important to that person and you did just blow it off, it is important to recognize it and be like, you know what, love, I am sorry. I said I would do it. I'll get to it. I'll do it now, or I'll do it in 10 minutes.
So that would be like a healthy. I think I wanted to point out because otherwise it could get. What I don't want is it's like too. Because this is what I mean. This is why the lens get blurred. Is that bit between like that and like, oh, just keep the peace. So, but you're keeping the peace by just shutting up about it, but actually you're hanging on to resentment. And it's actually like that you wouldn't be feeling like that if you had this kind of response. That's what I mean, like shape like a healthy response.
Yeah, and it's important, like, just because something isn't important to you doesn't mean it's not important to your partner. And if it is important to your partner, then it should be important to you.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be the same degree, but recognizing, well, she really needs me to do the washing up because it makes her feel safe if everything's put away.
Yeah.
So I violate it, and it's not about the washing up, it's about the act of doing something that they were asked to do. So once you can acknowledge that it's validation, right? Validating why they're upset, and then trying to come up with a resolution together, and then actually doing it. That should resolve that issue, and there should be no more.
Because everybody's getting the needs met. Everybody's getting the needs met in that situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no one was like, oh, for God's sake, you keep going on about the washing up all the time. That would be dismissive, and that would create more friction, because it's not really about the washing up.
Yeah. It never is. It never is.
Nope. Being dramatic. And what that means is overly, like, people have to have space to breathe. If you're constantly nagging or going on about small things, like, pick your battles, right? Like, if you haven't had those tough conversations in the beginning about value systems, raising children, religion, politics, money, living situation, anything like that, when they start to come out and you actually realize you have significant differences that no one ever actually addressed, that's when those nagging things start to come in. You should never parent your partner, right? If your partner, you're supposed to be equals. Everybody should be doing laundry. Everybody should be cleaning the house. Everyone should be looking after the kids. It's not that stereotypical division of responsibility where the man works and the woman is a housewife. So, but then that's when the nagging starts to eat away at people, the pick, because you've not actually had those conversations where someone said, look, it's really important to me to be house proud because my house growing up as a kid was a mess. Something like that, right? Like, oh, well, now I understand why. I understand why you want me to pick the stuff up. I understand why you keep nagging. But to somebody else, without that reason why, it's just like, oh, she just keeps on at me all the time. Like, about nothing. Yeah,
because it feels like, and it's like, it's true.
Jealousy. Jealousy is a tough one. Loyalty and trust is what, marriages and relationships are around. If you don't trust your spouse, you need to fix the problem. Focus on the confidence you have in your relationship and trust in one another to dissolve any doubts that may have been created. If your partner has cheated on you, it's really hard to ever come back from that, right? Foundation of relationships is trust. And once it is violated, that relationship becomes quicksand. Some people can resolve it. They can go to therapy. They can move past it, and they move on, and they have great relationships. Others get caught up in tit for tat. Well, you cheat on me, so I'm going to cheat on you. See how you like it. Which is a very hurt response. I totally understand it. But it really does fracture any chance of that relationship being resolved.
But there's also that other option of, like, people can then discuss, and actually there's an extra need that's not being met there. Let's have an open situation. And then it's all, like, agreed. So it's like, doesn't have to just necessarily be like negative. Is like, there is other relationship styles that are out there that could fit. Like, maybe this is what we need more than this,
Right. But again, it comes back to that conversation they have in the beginning. Like, what are the parameters of this relationship? And if it is an open one, awesome. What does that look like? If it's polyamorous, what does that look like? Right. But if you were set on a monogamous relationship and that trust was violated, very rarely is there a chance to come back. But also being, if your partner's extrovert and you're introverted, like, it's just open communication. Keep talking to people, and recognizing when you feel those bubbles of resentment or jealousy or anger, and being able to communicate them in a calm, respectful way. Say, hey, I felt this kind of way when you did that. I'm not really sure why, but I just wanted to let you know that that's what I felt. I'm trying to figure it out, and once I let you know, I'll
let you know.
Half listening. We all do it. We're all guilty of doing it. You're driving along. Me personally, my relationship, I don't stop talking, because you might have been aware of that. I run my mouth 24/7, and my poor partner just nods along. But that's our established, like, relationship, right? She lets me vent about the day, and she's just kind of nodding along, and that's all I need her to do. I don't need her to, and we've already talked about that, and that's what we have laid out. But there also should be those periods of time where you're not both on your phones, where you're not, if they've said, I really need to talk to you about something, and you're trying to finish something up, like, you need to be very clear about the expectations of what you can offer, right? If they're telling you, I feel really bad about this, they should have your undivided attention.
Yeah.
Not, for God's sake, she always wants to talk when I'm doing this. Then say that and say, look, I can't, give me 20 minutes and I'll be right with you. Let me just finish this up. And there should be respect on both ends, because if you are asking them to do that, they'll be right with you. They just said that, but then you have to follow up with that.
Don't do that and then just go out because you've changed your mind or whatever. Like, you don't want to avoid it because it's it is. It's like, now's not a good time. Let's
comparing your relationship. What I love about this phrase, it says you are not a celebrity couple. And I love that because, you know, all these magazines, all these Instagrams, all these Facebook, all the stuff, the news about what's happening between these two specific people who have a team of beauticians and publicists and all these people. And then you think, well, if so-and-so, if they're doing that in their relationship, why is it not happening in mine? Because it's not real.
It depends who your source is. Because look, about any news story, you look in a right wing, look in a left wing, they report differently. So on the same thing, report very differently. So like, who is your source? What are they saying? Do you know them personally, and does it come out of their mouth? And is that what you've had a feeling? There's like all them senses, all them parts to your judgment are now missing. Do you know what I mean? You're like, you don't know them.
Exactly. And is it like, just because another couple has matching t-shirts does not mean you need to go out and buy some for yourself. Be content with your relationship and stop comparing it to what you see on social media. And it's interesting they use the word content and not happy, because happiness is a construct, right? It's not actually possible to be that manically happy 24/7. But it's a contentment of needs being met, goals being achieved, and circumstances where you feel like this is where I'm supposed to be in my life, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not, actively working towards goals that you both are supported in to move forward. My favorite one, well, not my favorite one, and I hate it with a passion, is silent treatment. Don't give someone silent treatment. It is emotionally damaging. Studies have shown it activates the same part of your brain as when you get physical abuse. And it has more harmful after effects as neglect, because of what it does.
Now, where's the line between silent treatment and I am not gonna whatever went down, that's not okay, and I'm not gonna co-sign and just pretend everything's fine? Do you think there's a line between that and the silent treatment? Like, there is a certain point is like response, and then it's like,
I mean, silent treatment is actively harming your relationship. If someone is trying to talk to you and you are not giving them anything, there's a difference between voicing, I'm not okay with what just happened and I'm going to take myself out of the situation for a minute. I'll be back when I've calmed down, versus complete, because it kind of goes with withholding, right? If you're walking around your house and you're doing things and someone's trying to talk to you and you're completely nothing, it generates this anxiety and fear in, I don't know what else to do, right? It's really harmful, it's really damaging, it's very childish as well. Like, if you're that angry, go somewhere else and figure it out so you're better able to communicate when you come back. But there is a line between I'm not ready to deal with you, or I'm not able to talk to you in any real respect right now without saying something mean, and I don't want to do that, versus a complete shutdown. Because that's really like stonewalling as well, right? Like, if you don't want to be there or you're not willing to talk to this person, then take yourself out of the equation. Like, leave.
Go.
Go and be silent somewhere else, because it's not. It just creates this uneasiness, and this like ticking time bomb.
Because I think from situations in the past where it's been a case of like, I can't have that discussion with that person, and I can't bring it up, and I can't, or when I do, it just gets dismissed and I get gaslit or whatever. Them situations, like, there's no winning. You're like, so eventually you do start to withdraw. but that's very different to this. What we're talking about now, stonewalling.
Silent treatment is purposefully hurtful. You are purposely shutting them out. Can't have a conversation versus won't have a conversation are two very different things.
Yes. Because it's designed to make you. Yeah.
And then the last one is don't be too serious. You know, like your partner is essentially your best friend, your go-to, your ride or die, your co-pilot in this existence that we live in 2022 right now. And you should be able to enjoy it, you know, no matter what's happened, whatever resentments or issues you've managed to resolve, like they should be few and far between. You should be enjoying each other. And I think that goes on to, okay, we talked about red flags. We all know what red flags are, right? We all know
flags.
Those people, like they go with like, and like, do you want to do a quick review of those, and then we'll go on to green flags?
So a red flag alert. So this is the security system when it's working. Like these are the things to be aware. This is what to reprogram your security system.
Yes.
Sorry, reprogram your security system. This should be a red flag. A quick moving relationship, something that is always bringing you to the point of going, it'll be better when. It'll be better when. That if that's a recurrent thought in your situation, wherever it is, not a good sign. Love bombing. So that's all the like constantly barrage you of like.
I love you. I love you. I love you. Know, you're just the best person ever. Yeah. No.
You're the most amazing thing. How to me, you've also got to think of the validity of what they're saying because they only know they've scratched the surface of if within a few days they've scratched the surface of what you like. Do you know what I mean? They haven't got the rest of it.
They haven't unleashed the Kraken yet. Like they've only just seen the cute side. Yeah.
Or that one little sliver of whatever. They don't know about all the other stuff. So like, they're taking into account what they're basing it on. Of what you've seen, well, yeah. So does that mean you're like really about shiny things? Showering attention, put you on a pedestal, fast-moving relationships are a huge red flag. Because these are somebody who be like, you've met them, and then all of a sudden you spend every single day with them, and then before you know where they are, like in a very short space of time, very short window. You could be moving in with them. You could be in a situation where, like, you know, you could like open up your finances, things like that. Stuff where they've moved you along so quickly that it's almost like demanding the conditions and the benefits of a longer term relationship. I think.
Yeah, very. And I like the way you put that very well. Yeah, because if you're 6 weeks into a relationship and this person is the equivalent of Prince Charming. And you're being sent 50 dozen roses every day. Like, there should be a carnival of red flags at your back door at this point. Like, going, hell no, sister or brother. Like, this is not normal. Like, you don't... And that level of adoration is not consistent, and it's not physically possible to keep doing that the entire time. And it's based on, like you said, very little information about who you are as a person. That might... They don't even know your love language, right? You could be cringing at the fact that they're sending all these big... at work. They send you something at work that's like 2 weeks in and this guy's sending you 24 roses every... That's a problem, right? We're bordering on harassment at this point.
Because it's almost like buying the book. Oh, I've sent you this, so you must...
So you owe me.
You owe me. It's the sort of like... And now let's make this complete distinction. It's different with someone, a nice gesture, which is occasional, or it's like appropriate for where you're at. Some people might come in with a big gesture at the beginning, but it's not consistent. We're talking about somebody who has like a high level for the amount of time that you spent together. The math doesn't add up.
Doesn't equate. Right.
This does not, because what happens, like, if they're on that trajectory, if you map it out, if you're together with this person, like, now you're together with them from not 4 weeks, but now it's like 4 years. What can you expect after 4 years? Because everybody knows as relationships progress, as things get better, things develop, things deepen, things like get, you know what I mean? Like, so this person's already coming in at a 10. Why are they coming in at a 10? Mind you, I'm a very suspicious person.
I didn't know that about you. You're absolutely right. Like, if it's distraction, like, what are you hiding? What are you
Yeah.
And it's conditional. Well, I bought you this huge bag of roses, therefore you owe me, or you should show me. Like, it's a conditional exchange. You're right on the one-offs, the kind of like, oh, it's our anniversary, or just because, but it's not just because every day.
Right, exactly. This is like, it's almost like what? It's almost like they're laying the foundation for a future excuse. So they've given you 2 weeks of like, isn't this amazing? I've set the standard, so now I can stop giving as much attention and draw back a bit and start faltering a bit, and I'll keep saying, but how can you be mad at me because I did all this? It's the like, it's the shield against any harsh criticism, and it also gives the perfect benefit of the doubt. Oh, well, it was great in the beginning, so maybe it is this thing that they're telling me. It's so insidious, and it's so like, red flags. Killed me.
And I think that goes along with like some additional ones before we move on to the green flags. Like, they make you feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
So you should never. Empathy is different than sympathy, right? We all know that. Like, empathizing is being able to walk in someone else's shoes or imagine what it would be like to walk in someone else's shoes. Sympathizing is looking at someone in high heels and still wearing your flip-flops. Like, that must suck. Not the same. Not the same.
Sucks for you. But if you stormed off out of an argument in flip-flops, it's not a good look. It's not a good... It takes a while. It takes a while.
It's a slow clap out.
But someone's clapping.
I'm leaving. But making you feel sorry for them, like, they share unusually personal information about their past early on to establish this like sympathy, like, oh, he's misunderstood, or she's not had a good go of it, and I'm gonna help her.
Right. Now, like, I'm putting my hand up. I've fallen for the red flags before. Like,
really?
But like, to my shame, the first two relationships I've had, I left a really good living situation to move in with him with, like, I think we'd only been together a month, and I was moving in with this guy. It fell apart. He was an alcoholic. It was a mess. It was all the things. But it was that slow thing of like, oh, I want to try and get my life together, and I'm going to try and stop drinking, and da 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 da. And all that thing about feeling sorry for it, because I remember when I eventually had it, and I said I was going to leave, and I remember the day of, I was packing everything up, and I was crying, and I was like, hang on, wait a minute, why am I crying? I'm moving out of this horrible situation, I'm leaving this, I've got a job, I've got good friends, why am I crying? And I realized it's because I had been, in that short, I was with him like 5 months. Until like over that period of time, I had been conditioned to put his needs first.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not stupid is a very it's a spectrum. It's stupidity is a spectrum. I wouldn't class myself as a stupid person, so that's what I was like, oh, hang on, it can happen to anybody, and you'd think.
But I think what goes on, like, to the next thing is, like, they make you compromise your values. You turn a blind eye to things you wouldn't normally tolerate because you sympathize with them so deeply. You end up fighting their battles for them because, well, you don't understand them, right? Like, you don't know how hard they've had it. Hang on a minute. Yeah. Like, everyone has it tough. Life is tough. They don't get to use their trauma as an excuse. Yeah. It doesn't work like that.
But I think the key bit in this bit is you shouldn't want the resolution more than that person.
Correct.
If you're
you don't do their work for them. What is therapist 101? Like,
101. If the other person's sat in the back and they're having, like, I'm happy to have a little sulk in the back, and you're the one up front trying to solve that argument, you don't need, like, they should be number one of the fan club of getting this fixed, not you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, they can make you feel used, so they mention their former friends and lovers of which they speak disrespectfully, and some of the common words they might use are like delusional, over jealous, codependent, like she was crazy. Like, they try to discredit any other person that you could go to for like confirmation that this person is a complete muppet. Like, they pepper these conversations, and it almost under the subconscious of like, well, I would never want them to speak about me like that. Like, So it generates this like bind in, well, I better stay with them because I don't want to be treated how they've treated others.
And if you know yourself, you'd be like, for me to get that response, I know what the kind of behavior I would have to give. And then it's like, this person's given that behavior? Like, no. That's part of the trick. That's part of the trick.
They make you feel special. So when they compare you, they say things like, I don't think I could ever find someone like you. I feel more connected to you than anyone else I've ever dated. You're the best person I've ever met. All of this crap that goes along with that insidious, drip-fed, like, sympathizing, empathizing. Oh, they must really mean it because of all these other crazy women they've been with. I'm the best one he's ever come across. Like, House of Cards, my friend, House of Cards.
It's interesting when you go back from like that stages of love. Like there's a chemical component thrown in there as well. So like if even though that's like riding high initially for the first 6 weeks, like have that in the back of your mind. Like there's an element of this which is just stuff. The red flags.
You are fed to the wolves by your own biology, right? Like you're not seeing a lot of this. Everything has, that filter that's got like pink around the outside. It's like everything is tinted. This person's so amazing. They're so funny. Like they're the best person I've ever met. And then the wheels come off because you've not actually invested any real, authentic exchange of energy. Everything's been biologically wired so that you want to procreate with this person and then all of this other stuff. And then suddenly it's not. And you're left in the, put on the bed sheets back in the morning kind of vibe of, oh my God.
What the hell? It's almost like the security check, the managers went out and the managers went out. And there's left a load of love minions to make the decision for you. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So it's like, give yourself a break if you don't catch it for the first 6 months. You might not have a good instinct. Right. You're not meant to, But
this is when the filters come off.
The filters.
They make you feel guilty and then use that to manipulate you.
Yes.
You might start to feel like they don't actually care about you, and then you bring up this concern, and then they use that to guilt trip you. For example, you have no idea how much I've tried because of you, and now you want to blame me for not caring about you enough. Get out the pepper spray. They tend to take a lot from you and give very little back. So you might find it's very one-sided. You're trying to have these conversations. You're trying to change or fix your own triggers. And you're just being stonewalled, really. They won't take any responsibility for anything. It's always about what someone else has done to them rather than what they have done to manipulate that situation. And if you do start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, they will start to actively fix that in ways of they isolate you. So make sure that you're the only one that looks crazy rather than everyone else agreeing with them.
They're
a fun time. They're a fun time.
Are they a fun time? But the thing is that, like, they can convince you, like, give up your friends, don't see everybody else so much, all the time just me and you, because we're not spending. It's just like this bed of lies that is like.
And it's a consistent but slow violation of every single boundary you've ever had. And they essentially deconstruct you into the version of you that they want you to be, the groomed version of you just go along with it, you'll agree to it because you don't want to deal with the reactions. You feel like you have to explain and justify why you feel the certain way, and if you do have to explain why, they tell you you're wrong. So a lot of this, and again, it might just be one or two things somebody's doing, and it might be the whole kit and caboodle of a full-blown emotional abuser. But whenever you're left questioning yourself, whenever you're left defending your boundaries, or whenever you're left defending why you feel some kind of way, that's a red flag, my friend. It's not Carnival, and that is in fact a red flag.
They are off. They are off. Penalty, go away. Leave us alone. Leave us alone.
So let's speak about people who are functioning adults, right? What are green flags?
Are there any? First of all, are there any functioning adults in this place?
We are medicated, but yes, there is.
Medicated and caffeinated. Let's do this. So I
Do
can
this.
let's do this. So somebody I've got in here, like you feel physically and emotionally safe around them. And I think I always just what I've noticed, witnessed in relationships that work is this quality, what I call the calm. There's like a calmness in how they go around each other. Yes, they're gonna make ups and downs, but there's always this element of like there's peace. Do you know what I mean? There's an element of peace. And
Well, to quote Medea, there should be two places you find peace, right? The grave and your own house. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah.
Sister knows what she's talking about.
Absolutely. They are supporting you by pushing you towards your personal partnership goals, which is different from the bad habits we were talking about before, because it's
Yes, ma'am, it is.
it's your version of what you think is best for that person, which is quite patronizing, as opposed to what they like encourage them to like step outside of what they know, and like what do you actually want to gain out of this. Being encouraging is very different to that. You're both able to communicate effectively and consistently. So consistency is the best.
Consistency is key, yes.
Yeah. Because everybody has an off day, but if you're consistently, I turn up for you, I am there for you, you know, like I am like
Dependable,
that second, dependable. That is amazing. You're able to build relationships with friends and family without them getting jealous or overprotective, which I think is healthy.
Yeah. Families are chaotic, but if someone steps into your family and is able to function as a family member, right? It's the same thing as community members. Is you can step in and chip in and all those other types of things, you don't cause risks, then that's a keeper. If someone can step into your family and people are welcoming of them, like that's a great trait.
And but it's also that what was I going to say there? There's also a key then that I think looking at them, which I definitely bring into my dating life now, is like, do they have close relationships around them?
That is a big indicator of a functioning adult.
Yeah, because family. Let's change family to family or chosen family, because everybody's families are a bit like hokey pokey. Some are great.
Yes.
Some are like functioning just, and some of them are whatever. So like I think, but there's always going to be that part. Like I have connected on a really good, respectful level with somebody or a few other people, and if you've got that, that's a seriously good, massive green flag. Like, hello. They respect your personal space, both physically and material, so they don't just like disrespect the fact that that's your stuff and like borrow it without asking, break it. That sort of stuff doesn't happen. They actively listen to and comfort you without prompting. Now, actively listen.
That is like ding 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 ding.
Yeah.
The key part of that sentence was without prompting.
Without prompting, like because it's going back to what we said before. That key line is, if it's important to you, it's important to me, and that should be you should feel that. You know what I mean? Like this is like, you know, it's very important. What else?
I would say stop doing things that makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So you continue to learn with your partner, of course, and it might be something that you might not be aware of until later on in your relationship, but actually what they keep doing is triggering you or makes you feel upset. But if you're able to voice it in a respectful way and then they actively stop doing it, that is awesome, because they understand that they're hurting you or making you feel uncomfortable. It shouldn't be a defense mechanism. Well, I like to do it, so you're going to have to suck it up. No, that's not how that works. Right? This thing you keep doing is causing me stress or discomfort. I would really appreciate it if you didn't do it.
Yeah.
That should be an immediate, you know what, babe, you're right, I'm sorry. I won't do it in front of, whatever it is, they'll stop doing it.
They'll either do it or there's something as close as they can manage themselves to do it.
Yes. And at least validate the fact that it is making you uncomfortable. Right.
Yeah.
And they have, I think, self-awareness and insight into, if you said that someone has done something wrong or you felt hurt by them, being able to say it and then that person acknowledge that and validate that and apologize. And an apology only means something if you change the behavior, right? So those actual, genuine, consistent, heartfelt apologies that result in behavior change are what happen in a committed relationship. If you say sorry and keep doing the same thing over and over again, you were never really sorry in the first place, nor do they respect the value.
Well, there's also the process of learning. Like if you learn to do something, if you learn to drive, you don't just then not drive. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like,
right.
There's, if you learn it, if you understand it, and if you get it, there shouldn't really be a repeat because you've elevated yourself out of ignorance into something else. So so now it becomes a choice, as you were saying before. It's a choice to ignore it or doesn't matter. Yeah.
And I think a lot of what we've talked about today in general is taking away those reactive responses and giving someone a choice, right? Respectful, communicative choice of being with somebody else. And I think once you know what you're doing, you have a responsibility to fix it, especially if it's actively hurting somebody, whether that's friend, partner, family, anyone. But also recognizing self-growth and change is important. It's not up to everyone else to tell you what you're doing wrong. Like you need to you are your own responsibility as well. Like we can pick our partners apart all day long like they're Swiss cheese, but until you address your own issues, you really have no business sort of continuing to point others out. You know what I mean? Balance.
And using the situation as an excuse, because like that's been definitely a friend of mine who's been dating. She dated 2 different people, and one of them they had a similar situation. One had kids, the other one had kids, own business, but the way they handled it was very different. And it's not necessarily like, oh, but they've got this, and oh, that's the reason they can't do it. No. It's how they handle it, how they choose to handle it.
Yeah, and I think just being, when you're with somebody, you should always be continuing to move forward. Everybody should be working on their own issues, like working on partner issues. Like there should always be growth and change. Like, and like you said, you elevate yourself out of ignorance. I really like that. Like if you don't know, you don't know, and if you don't know, you can't fix it. But once you do know, then you do have that responsibility to figure out how to be better, I think. Heal from your own demons, heal from your own trauma. But I always tell my clients and inmates and whoever I come across that your trauma is not an excuse to live through life letting everyone else letting everybody else feel the wrath of what you wanted that one person to feel the wrath of. Like you have to heal for your own sanity's sake and move forward. So I like helping people find triggers and red flags and understanding. No, you don't have to put up with that, right? That's immediately no, right? 1 out of 10, not recommend.
Do not recommend. This is 0-star rating. It was ordered from Wish. No, thank you. Because it's important to know that it's like, just because it's there, like it's almost like somebody going, "Do you know you have this? You can throw this out now." This is faulty. This is not like the picture at all. This is not like the picture.
1-star review. Get rid of it.
I have to concede, yes, there are functioning people who are medicated and caffeinated and out there who do this, because I have got some wonderful friends who do that. So yes.
Yeah, me too. So we have one more in this series?
Yes, we have one more in the series, and the last one is going to be on desensitized.
Yes. So we're going to kind of wrap everything up from this series and just focus a little bit more on how we end up becoming desensitized to things and how that can affect relationships.
Yeah.
So yes, this was fun.
I know. I always love talking it through with you. It's always good fun, and I hope that everybody listening can get a little bit something from it, or kind of go, I wonder what my triggers are. Just having that bit. That's the whole thing about Gestalt thing, is like bring it into someone's awareness, you'll make a change because something is now there that wasn't there before. So you've got more information. So I look forward. Like, email us in.